In an earlier video, I talked about the relationship between the circumference of a circle, and circumference is just another word for perimeter. We just use this term for circles, but it is simply the measure on the outside. You know, how far around, if we measured this, what is the measurement around the circle, okay? But we use the word for circumference when we're dealing with circles. So if you found the circumference and you divide it by the diameter, and the diameter is simply a line that goes through the center of my circle, like that, you would get this value of pi. Okay, pi is an irrational number. It goes on forever and ever. Many times we approximate it with some decimals like 3.14. It continues on. It's 159.265 and so on, but oftentimes you'll see books use 3.14. So that means if I wanted to find the circumference, I could multiply both sides by the diameter, and I would get this. That the circumference formula, this is worth knowing, circumference is equal to pi multiplied by the diameter of my circle. Okay? Now, let's just do a sample problem here, and we'll do it a couple ways. Let's say that in this circle, the diameter was 15, and I asked for the circumference. Well, you'd say, okay, the circumference then is pi multiplied by 15. Now, as you move through your math career and you get, into high school, oftentimes this is how we want the answer to look. Usually we put the number first and say 15 times pi. But this is exact. Exact because pi being an irrational number that goes on forever and ever, the minute we do 15 times pi on our calculator or 15 times 3.14, we're approximating, we're rounding, where this represents the actual circumference, the exact number. The minute we do something like, 3.14 times 15, like that, we use some parentheses just to, and we say 3.14 times 15 is 47.1, this is an approximation, okay? Because we have not used all the digits of pi, rather we've just, rounded. All right. Again, your calculator probably has a button for pi that would even give you a little more exactness, but if you don't, if you're using a standard kind of 10-digit calculator, you can approximate with 3.14. So this is the approximate circumference. Like if we put some units on this, if we said, well, the diameter was 15 inches, well then if I took a measuring tape and put it all the way around, it would be approximately 47.1 inches all the way around. Okay, let's do another example. Let's say the circumference was 26. I'm sorry, the diameter was 26. So, and we were asked for the circumference. So we'd say, well, the exact circumference is pi times 26, or we usually like the number first, 26 pi. The approximation would be that 3.14 times 26, which is, I'll type that in, 81.64. Okay, so again, if the diameter is 26 inches, if I took a measuring tape and went all the way around, it would be approximately 81.64. Let's say instead of giving you the diameter, rather they gave you the radius. They said, well, the radius is 9. Well, I think, we could make a whole new formula for this, but I think the easiest way to think about it is if the radius is 9, well, then this side is 9, but then so is this. This is also 9. So the diameter is 18. It's just double the radius. And you'll see some textbooks that will say, well, pi multiplied by 2 times the radius. And of course, 2 times the radius is simply the diameter. That they're the same thing. So if you want to memorize that formula as well, you certainly could. But in this case, of course, our circumference would be pi times 18, or 18 pi. And if we typed in 3.14 times 18, so we said, well, approximately like this, we get 56.52. So in the original kind of setup of the problem, if I said, well, this circle has a radius of 9, well, then if you had a measuring tape, it would be 56.52 inches approximately to go all the way around. Let's do one more setup. Let's say we were told that the circumference was 9 pi and we were asked for the diameter. Well, in this case, of course, the formula is pi times diameter. So all you would need to do is say, well, pi times diameter. I mean, really just divide the pi's out. Well, the diameter then was 9. If you were asked for the radius, you'd say, well, the diameter of the whole thing is 9. What's half of that? Well, the radius would be half, or 4.5, like that. Okay. You could also be given the circumference maybe as a decimal and say, well, what if the circumference was 42.3? You'd say, well, that's equal to pi times the diameter. If I divided by pi, like that, 42.3 divided by pi, or 3.14 if you're using the approximation, the diameter is 13.47. Okay? And again, I did actually just use 3.14 here, but you could use the pi button on your calculator. So, worth remembering this formula, that the circumference is simply pi times the diameter. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe for more geometry help.